Alright, so I figured I'd make this video because I looked myself and could not find any videos online about loading 460 Magnum on a lock and load press. So I'll make it pretty short here and start from the top down. So I have a lock and load AP with the case feeder. I do not have a bullet feeder, at least not the automatic one, because I don't see a need for it. I just hand load with the actual feeding die. So in your case feeder, you're not going to use the large pistol. That's not going to work. The cases are so tall that they're going to tip over, and you will never actually catch any and drop any down there. I have found using the large rifle plate is the best one to use. Now you're still going to have to keep an eye and adjust this window here, but it will work. You occasionally will get a little jam, but that's normal really with anything. So just keep an eye on that, and you should be fine there. Now coming down, and you got to figure, I've never loaded a bullet in my life before I started with this press. When I bought this, I had never loaded anything and had to learn all of this on my own, except for a few vague videos on the internet, and really it's trial and error and experience. The first thing I learned is you're going to have to use this, okay? Even though it's a straight wall cartridge and it's a pistol, you're technically going to have to treat it like a rifle case, pretty much all the way around, okay? So you're going to have to use this extension here on there to keep that upright. If you don't, cases are going to, especially when it gets down to the last one and that second one drops, it's going to flip that out of there every time. I'm using a combination of the RCBS carbide for the 460 and a 45 Colt Lee set for my dies. I'm loading H110 47 grains with a 240 grain XTP Magnum, and there is a finished round, and I'm using CCI primers, Starline brass. But what you're going to want to do is start, if you're new, you're going to want to start here on this. Don't put anything else in the press, and master getting this to feed properly. And one of the things that I did not know and never was told on any video that I'm going to point out is it absolutely has to do with your rhythm of pulling this handle. Okay, you can put the right piece on there all day long, and it really, it's subjective. You can actually use like 3 or 4 different ones, and it will feed that case into your shell plate holder. But if your rhythm with your handle is not correct, it will kick that sideways and tip. It doesn't matter. You can sand or polish that little piece down inside there so the lip doesn't catch. I've done all that. That has nothing to do with anything. It really doesn't even need to be done. What's necessary is that your rhythm with that handle is correct. Okay, so when you're coming, and it's one of those things you'll just have to learn as you do it. As you're coming back down with the press, you want to make sure that you're giving it a little oomph, not like hard like you're priming it, but as you're feeding it down on your all the way on the bottom of your downstroke, and then the beginning of your top stroke is what matters to feed that case properly into there. Okay, you're going to need shell holder number 32. Okay, for the plate, and that's this one here. So if you're wondering, that's the one you're going to need. And this, pretty much, you're going to be doing all your 45 calibers with that, other than like 45 ACP. Once you get this section mastered right here, then you're going to want to move on to one thing at a time. So just put this die in here, which is your expander mandrel, which is from my RCBS set. I found that's the best one. Start with that. Once you get that properly flaring the case, and you want it just enough that that bullet, and this is a good example, when they say snap in, they mean this. It just snaps right into it, just gently fits right into the top, that it won't tip out of there as it moves in rotation, but it's not, you know, so small or so tight that it's going to bend your case walls or buckle them out as you're forcing it into the feeding die. You're going to go to your powder next. One of the things I strongly suggest is spend the $40 and buy this micrometer adjustment. That is the best damn money I've ever spent. I literally don't even use a pistol die the pistol rotor assembly at all. This thing literally will accurately dispense 1 grain. I've done it. So just buy that, put it in there, and set it and forget it when it comes to this. And it helps so much having those tick marks on there. And when after you load so much, because I load like 15 or 20 different calibers on this machine. and I'm able to change over very easily. 10 minutes I'm able to change this whole machine over and go from rifle to pistol, small or large, it doesn't matter. But spend the money on that. Okay. After that, another thing you're going to want to do, at the beginning, I suggest you prime all your cases separately, and I still do. I prime separately and then load everything else. But definitely prime separately. But in the beginning, you're going to want to just hand feed your bullets one at a time so you can pay attention to what you're doing. Once you start to get a little more experience, then get you a bullet feeder. And if you want to invest in the whole other side of the ammo plant there with the automatic bullet feeder, fine. But this is really all you need is the Lee setup with, you know, you can get the kits and it has all the tubes and stuff. That's all that is a Hornady feeding die. One of these here. Bullet feed die and just a tube on there. That's really it. Sometimes I'll tape it. It just depends on what caliber. Once you get that set, the trick to setting this is dial it all the way down till it's tight and then back it off just a little bit and shake it, and you'll hear that little collar move up and down. That's pretty much it. It's set. Then it's just about screwing it in, you know, up or down as high as your case is, just enough to engage it so that it grabs the bullet as it comes back down, and the bullet will be sitting on top of the case. And then there's plenty of videos out there on bullet seating, so if you want to figure that out, that's for a longer video. You could find that information pretty readily available as far as setting the crimp. Now, what I do is I very gently, just barely set the crimp on the first die, and this is where my 45 Colt comes in. So I use the RCBS 460 Magnum seating die, and I will seat it and just barely start the crimp. I mean the lightest crimp. And then I complete the crimp with the 45 Colt, because this, even though that this is a tall case, if you back this out, as you see there, and it's not really even backed out that far, you can get a perfect factory crimp with this part right here. It's just, the crimp's so much better with this. And on a 460 Magnum, you need a very stout crimp. Let me see if I can get it close up there. I crimp mine hard, and I get really good consistent results out of them. So I seem to not have any problems. But I guess I'll put the phone down and run a few rounds here and show you how things go. You will have to help guide the cases into this crimp die right here at the end, because I've noticed, because of how far it's screwed out, you just got to help feed them in there. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. Alright, let's run a couple rounds here. We'll have to go a little slower doing this caliber, but it's fine. This is still better than loading them one at a time. I strongly would suggest investing in a press like this. It was very confusing for me at first, having loaded any other rounds before, but I absolutely do not regret buying this press and everything that goes along with it. So, and I want to point out here, as you can see, before this goes into the crimp there's a very, I don't know if it'll focus here, very light crimp. It's just started, and after it goes through the factory crimp is when it applies a heavy, stout crimp to it. And then when it comes out of there, it's almost on the verge of where it's catching the bullet. I'm trying to get it to focus here. There we go. You want it to where it's almost catching the bullet, like right on the verge of catching it as it's coming down out of there. As hard of a crimp as it can put on it. Because when you, especially when you load, you know, 5 or 6 rounds into a 460, the recoil alone is going to cause that bullet to jump out of there. So, yeah, those are pretty much my my main tips for loading the 460, and I figured I'd point a few of them out to help some people out there that may have this press or have just started or are experienced and they just got a 460 and want to load for this caliber. If you have any questions or need any help, don't be afraid to reach out. You could DM me or whatever, and I'd be happy to help. Alright, see you guys.